Whenever this girl cried, noodles would flow from her eyes. The more heartbroken she was, the more noodles would come out. One day, the girl lost her job. She walked along the street with a worried expression. She tried to stay positive but couldn't manage to smile. Later, she went to a supermarket to buy a bottle of milk, only to discover at checkout that she couldn't even afford it anymore. After returning home, she became increasingly upset and couldn't hold back her tears. As she cried, amazingly, a noodle fell from her eye. At first, she thought it had fallen from above, but that clearly wasn't the case. She instinctively touched her eye. Could it really have come from there? Thinking this, she picked up the noodle from the table and carefully chewed it. Surprisingly, it tasted quite delicious. This gave her a bold idea. Why not use this to make a fortune? That evening, the girl cried enough to fill a bowl with noodles and offered it to her 80-year-old grandmother to try. To her surprise, her grandmother couldn't stop praising the noodles. The next day, the girl set up a small street stall. Sure enough, her business was incredibly successful. She sold out of noodles in no time. She then had to hide in a stairwell to cry and produce more noodles before returning to continue selling. Soon, she was making money hand over fist. Just yesterday she had been worried about unemployment and unable to afford milk, but now her mood had improved tremendously. However, the next day, she couldn't cry at all. Desperate, she kicked the door, trying to use pain to make herself cry, but it didn't work. That evening, she watched sad movies and even went so far as to break her father's urn, but still couldn't shed a single tear. Finally, she took the dog that had been her companion for over a decade and abandoned it in a remote wilderness. On her way back, remembering all the moments she had shared with her dog, she finally broke down sobbing. Now she could sell noodles again. Business boomed, and she came up with an even more profitable idea. She rented a larger space and opened a proper restaurant. The place was always packed with customers. The manager would remind her when more customers were waiting, and whenever she couldn't cry, she looks at the picture of her dog on the wall. Then she looks at her grandmother's picture, and then she cries again. Now there's a question. How did the girl's grandmother die?